You've heard the hype. Sunshine, luxury homes, beautiful people, and even more beautiful golf courses. And there's some truth to that. But behind the postcards and polished Instagram feeds, living in Scottsdale comes with a few, let's just say, realities that don't always make the Instagram reels or the relocation brochures. If you're considering making Scottsdale your home, this video is going to give you the unfiltered, boots on the ground perspective. The kind of insight that real people wish they knew before they moved. On the map, Scottsdale and Phoenix looks pretty interconnected, and they are geographically. But from a real estate, culture, and lifestyle perspective, they are completely different animals. Scottsdale has its own identity, one built on luxury, outdoor lifestyles, and branding. You will see Scottsdale plastered on everything, including listings that are 30 miles away. Because the name Scottsdale sells. You'll see things like bordering Scottsdale or right next to Scottsdale in listing descriptions. And the reality is, many of these homes aren't even close to the Scottsdale amenities. Here are some key differences that buyers need to know about. For city services, Scottsdale has its own police, fire, water, and trash. And they are some of the best run in the state. Phoenix, while a huge city, just has a lot of bureaucratic layers. Zoning and ordinances in Scottsdale are also stricter, with zoning limits, height restrictions, and neighborhood preservation, but can also limit some expansion. Now, while overall taxes are somewhat similar, Scottsdale's fees for things like utilities and city services can vary from what Phoenix pays, and that can impact your monthly costs. Now, these fees also vary based on where you live within Scottsdale. Here's my buyer tip here. When you're house hunting, double check the municipality on the property records. Just because an agent says that it's Scottsdale adjacent doesn't mean you have the same benefits or resale value. And here's a tricky one because it's touted as the magic zip code. And if you look at the address, it says Scottsdale. However, it's actually in Phoenix. So all your city services are paid to Phoenix. Now, they call it the magic zip code because some of those services can be less money. However, let's say your kids want to sign up for something that the Scottsdale City Park is offering. Well, you can't do that on day one. Even though your address says Scottsdale, you're governed by Phoenix. And some of those activities fill up. Now, if you look at brochures from the Chamber of Commerce, they're going to show you trees gently swaying in the breeze in January. And sure, our winters here are beautiful. Some might say perfect. But if you're planning to live here, not just vacation, the other 9 months may hit you harder than you think. Here's the weather breakdown. March through May is pretty pleasant. This is when we can have some really dry weather though, and your allergies might flare up a little bit. And the temps during this time can start to push 90+ degrees. June through September, this is the brutal stretch. You're looking at 110 to 118 degrees every day. Even your car's leather seats become a weapon, not to mention your steering wheel. October through November, this is our fall, and it's pretty subtle, with cooler evenings, but still sometimes hotter days. This is also known as the beginning of our high season, and when we start to get a lot of out-of-town visitors. Now, you also need to know about monsoon season. This hits between July and September, and our desert storm season is real. Here's what you can expect. Massive dust storms that some call haboobs. They can shut down roads and cover everything in dust. We can also have really intense thunderstorms that can cause flash flooding. We actually had one of these recently, and we hadn't seen one like this since 2018. And there was damage to roads, some golf courses, and a few homes. Now, my buyer tip here has a lot to do with the exposure your house gets. If you have north-south exposure on your home, this is usually the best because your house can stay cooler and it's more energy efficient. Also, having an updated HVAC system and some updated insulation also helps, especially if your home is a little older. Scottsdale's image as a luxury city isn't just marketing anymore. It's a financial reality. You're not just buying a home here. You are buying into a lifestyle economy. That means almost everything, from your morning coffee to your landscaping bill, is higher than what most people expect. Here are just a few examples. If you're going to a grocery store, that trip can cost 20 to 30% more than the national average. AJ's Fine Foods here is gorgeous, but not budget friendly. Nor is it a place that most people do their day-to-day grocery shopping, but some do. If you're dining out, Scottsdale's culinary scene is fantastic. And expensive. My father-in-law used to call this the land of the $50 steak. Go to a happy hour and you might save $3. But a glass of wine and a small plate of something is still gonna cost you $25 or more. And services here, like a handyman, a cleaner, or a pool service company, they are not inexpensive. And handymen, those are in high demand. So you have to expect to wait for them, at least for the good ones. Then we have insurance and utilities. And just like everywhere else, we have rising insurance costs because of the floods and the fires nationwide. And Scottsdale Electric, either through APS or SRP, is kind of pricey, especially in the summer when your AC is working nonstop. My buyer tip here is to budget at least 20% more than what your current expenses are, especially if you're relocating from the Midwest or the Southeast. The electric bill alone in the summertime can really shock people. Now, the water issues here in Arizona are not just a media scare tactic. In 2025, they are affecting policy, permits, and resale, especially in areas on the fringe of the city water infrastructure. Back in 2023, all over the news, they were talking about Scottsdale running out of water. But here's what really happened. Out in one of those fringe areas called Rio Verde, there's an area of homes out there that are on what's called hauled water. What that means is that they are not on city water and they are not on a well or a shared well. They actually have to have water hauled in for them or they haul it in themselves. And they were getting that water from the city of Scottsdale. Well, the city of Scottsdale had given them about a year notice to tell them that city of Scottsdale could no longer supply them with their water. Nothing was really done, and that day came and Scottsdale turned off the water for them. An agreement was reached and the city of Scottsdale did end up providing water for them again until a new agreement was reached with a private water company called EBCOR, and that is how they all get water now. But of course, with all of this, it made national news and everybody started freaking out thinking that Scottsdale had actually run out of water, which was not the truth and was lacking a little context. The reality with those homes, though, is that they can be harder to sell, all because of the hauled water situation. And that hauled water is not inexpensive. Now, even within Scottsdale, some newer developments have water uncertainty baked right into their zoning documents. So here's what you need to look for. Ask your agent, is this home on city water or is it on hauled water? Now, really, unless you're looking out in that Rio Verde area, you're likely going to be on city water. However, there are some places within the city of Scottsdale that are on that private water company, and you need to know that. Check for low water landscaping or xeriscaping. This is not just trendy anymore. Review the city's 2035 water plan and tiered water structure. See, Scottsdale uses price signals to manage usage, and your monthly bill could skyrocket if you're not careful. Here's my buyer tip on this one. Having that xeriscape landscaping can really help you cut costs. It's also good to make sure that all those drip lines are not leaking, because that can be a sneaky way to waste a lot of water. Scottsdale looks open and spread out, and we are fortunate to have the 101 that runs north and south throughout the city. However, it does sit on the eastern edge of Scottsdale. So getting to some of those other places within Scottsdale can be a little tricky because you're using surface streets. You can also see some bottlenecking on Scottsdale Road, Shea Boulevard, which provides access in and out of Fountain Hills, and Hayden Road during rush hour, or when the snowbirds are all here. When we have our tourist traffic for events like Barrett Jackson, Phoenix Open, and Spring Training, which attract hundreds of thousands of people, it is during these times that our streets are more traveled. And if you want a reservation at a great restaurant, you need to make your reservation early. And if you're moving here, you have to know that getting just about anywhere is going to take you 20 to 25 minutes. And sometimes those places aren't that far away. It's just the time of day you're traveling and the traffic. The people that seem to be the most affected by our traffic here come from smaller towns. And I've said this before, I come from Southern California, where our traffic is really intense. So the traffic here for me is still not that bad. It has definitely changed over the last 20 some years that I've lived here, but I still don't find it absolutely terrible. All that to be said, here's my buyer tip on this one. Try a mock commute before you buy a home. Time how long it's gonna take you to drive from your home to work or to school or the gym or anywhere else you really love going, and do it during actual traffic time. That way you'll have a great idea before you buy. Now, over the past few years, many people have come to Scottsdale and bought an investment, and Scottsdale is a great place where you can make a long-term investment play, but only if you understand its limitations. The last 5 to 7 years brought a flood of cash buyers into our market. These buyers might have been buying a second home or a short-term rental investment, but in 2025, things are shifting. Inventory is up in certain price brackets. Short-term rental regulations are getting tighter, both citywide and in specific HOAs. If you are buying a home here thinking that you will Airbnb your way to riches or flip it in 2 years, you might be in for a rude awakening. Even desirable neighborhoods like Kierland and DC Ranch are seeing longer days on market and more price adjustments than they did 2 years ago. Here's what's working. Mid-range single-family homes in a non-HOA neighborhood are still seeing a strong demand from locals. And our long-term rental demand is still somewhat consistent, but do not expect cash flow unicorns. Here's my buyer tip on this one. Buy where you would live, not where Instagram tells you is hot. Scottsdale is a lifestyle market first, investment market second. So Scottsdale has often been described as the Beverly Hills of the desert. And while that vibe absolutely exists, from the fashion to the Ferraris, it doesn't always translate to deep community. Here's what that means for relocators. If you are coming here for connection and community, you have to be intentional. In many neighborhoods, you're gonna have a mix of people. Some may have their primary residence there. For some, it might be a second home. And for others, it could be an investment. And maybe they rent it out. For others, maybe it's their primary home, but they leave for the summer. New residents can feel isolated for maybe 6 to 12 months when they first get here, especially if they move into a community that has fewer full-time residents. However, once you do find your people, Scottsdale has plenty to offer. There are outdoor clubs, hiking clubs, pickleball clubs, leagues for just about everything. Then there are arts and wine festivals every month, entrepreneurial or small business groups, faith-based communities, and philanthropic events. My buyer tip on this one is don't just shop the home, shop the community. Visit during both high and low season. Ask potential neighbors how long they've lived there. This is why I ask my clients about their lifestyle just about as much as I ask about the home they're looking to buy. Living where you love and where others love it too, this will give you that first connection point with the others that live around you, and that's important. This is one of the most overlooked realities of Scottsdale. You can't judge a zip code by its comps alone. Take 85251 for example. You've got multi-million-dollar homes within 2 blocks of mid-century homes in their original condition. Some areas are vibrant and walkable, others feel worn down or in transition. Property values swing drastically from street to street, especially near Old Town. Same goes for 85254. You know, that magic zip code we talked about earlier, Phoenix mailing address, Scottsdale schools. Amazing value if you understand what you're getting. South Scottsdale, great entry point, but a mixed bag of rentals, flips, and long-term owners. And don't forget, HOA rules vary wildly. Some areas are packed with short-term rentals. Great for returns, less great for quiet evenings. Noise, traffic, and future development all impact long-term value. Here's my buyer tip on this one. Drive the neighborhood at different times of the day. Look for signs of pride of ownership. Pay attention to who's walking their dog or pushing a baby stroller. Those details matter more than the Zillow stats. Now, if you're moving to Scottsdale with kids, you probably have some questions about schools. And you've probably looked at sites like greatschools.org. And you've probably seen ratings for schools that vary anywhere from 5 out of 10 to 9 out of 10. But here's the thing, those ratings don't tell the full story, because here's what they don't include. They don't include teacher turnover rates, availability of special education services or services for gifted students, class sizes, extracurriculars, and leadership quality. They also don't provide the true test scores for the school. Scottsdale has a variety of educational options, which is great because, see, we have open enrollment, meaning you as a parent get to pick where your kids go to school. We have public schools. We have both Scottsdale Unified as well as Paradise Valley Unified. We also have charter schools like Basis and Great Hearts. And then we have the private schools. And here you can go to a school with tuition ranging from $10,000 a year to $30,000 a year. What do most families do, whether you're local or not? They tour the different schools to see what might work best for their kids and their family. And they ask the hard questions. They also talk to other parents with kids that actually go to the school they're thinking about sending their kids. And then they choose the school that they feel is going to be the right fit for their kid and their family. Here's my tip on this one. If you choose a school that is not working out for your child, you can move them. I've had multiple clients move here and place their kids in a school that they thought was the best fit. And sometimes it was for a time until it wasn't. And the beauty here is you can move schools, and many do. So it's not uncommon. Now, here are a few Scottsdale specific hacks that don't show up in blogs, but can make or break your whole experience. Locals don't overschedule in the summer. They slow down. They plan vacations, multiple vacations if they can, even if that just means a short weekend up north to get out of the heat. If you try to power through your summer like you did back home, you will burn out fast. Everyone has their guy, whether that be an AC tech, a landscaper, or a pool service. Locals build a trusted list of service pros because good help can be hard to find, and they book up quickly. This is one of the things that my clients come back to me for time and time again, and it's why I have all my vendors listed in my app, which you can find down in the description below, where my clients can go and find them easily. We also prep our homes for the summer like it's the apocalypse. Sunscreens, HVAC tune-ups, irrigation checks, and roof inspections are annual rituals here because summer can ruin an unprepared home. And none of that is fun to deal with during the hot summer days. Now, if you want to learn about some of Scottsdale's neighborhoods that people love, you are gonna want to watch this video. As always, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.